So it just depends. Okay, I'm giving you what you know, in a more normal market where you don't have these certain customs, what we would see. All right, so we've got that. Now, got a whole list of other costs. And generally, going to check that the seller is to pay the county transfer tax or fee. Not all cities. Oh, how can you find out how much the escrow and what have? Check with your escrow officer. Your escrow officer can provide you with the formulas and estimates and what have you on fees. All right, now some areas are going to have a city transfer tax or a city transfer fee. Okay, I'm going to go seller on that, but I'm going to write in if applicable. All right, this is saying that if there is a city transfer tax or fee, because I don't know for this particular area and I couldn't reach my escrow officer in time for me to write this offer. So I'm just not sure if there is a city transfer tax or fee. So I'm going to cover my bases and I'm going to ask that the seller pay for it if there is one. So that's why if applicable. If there is one, I'm asking the seller pay for it. If there is an HOA transfer fee, I'm asking the seller to pay for that. Now, item 4, that's the transfer fee. Your HOAs charge to transfer from one owner to another. All right, so I'm going to ask there that seller pay for that. Item 4, the seller shall pay HOA fees for preparing documents required to be delivered. That's not even an option of who pays for that. That is just a given that the sellers, per the contract, the seller shall pay the HOA fees for preparing documents required to be delivered by Civil Code 4525. Those are all the required HOA documents that have to be prepared and provided to the buyer. Now, I've checked in with my escrow officer regarding item 5, and they could not think of, my escrow officers couldn't think of any situation where there would be documents other than those required by the Civil Code. But hey, just in case, I'm gonna click seller. All right, so if there is no if there is no HOA, put in NA. So you wouldn't check the boxes for HOA in that case. Write in NA. We don't have it. We don't have this. And leave it blank. Writing in NA, it says, I didn't forget to write anything in here. I know that there's not an HOA. All right. Now, private transfer fee. I want to check on something. If I have this, I'm going to give it to you. If not, it is in your legal Q&As. 1 second, I'm looking for something. There.
Debbie, New
Yeah, go ahead.
Like Ladera Ranch and Rancho Mission Viejo, they have private transfer fees.
Yes.
Usually buyer pays.
It depends. mean, if that's customary in that area, that's great, but every area is different. Now here's the thing. There is, and I don't have it in my on my folder, but in CAR.org, if you go to the legal Q&As, they do have one for private transfer fees. This is in CAR.org. Get familiar with the items that are in CAR.org, because I will tell you, those legal Q&As are most helpful. There is one for private fees, private transfer fees. Here's what a private transfer fee is. Let's say you've got a community that, and I know in Santa Clarita, for instance, there are a couple of 55 plus communities, gated communities. They've got a lot of amenities, and they have what amounts to a buy-in fee. This buy-in fee is charged to the buyer when they, in order for them to, Clara, would you mute your mic, please? Thanks.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. So this buy-in fee, or another development in Valencia calls it an enhancement fee. Now it's $2,000 to $3,000. I think they're both closer to $3,000 these days. And that's a fee that the buyer generally pays in order to become part of that community. It's not an optional fee. Somebody has to pay that. And generally it's the buyer. So that fee is triggered every time there's a sale of the property. That's an example of a private transfer fee. Another one, Lennar, for instance, with some of the Lennar developments, they have a private transfer fee. In the contract, it will state that there is a, I forget what they call it, but basically what it is a fee that goes into effect every time the property is transferred. It's a few $100s, and that fee goes into their affordable housing fund. So some neighborhoods have something like that, others don't. All right, so this is those are examples of a private transfer fee. Here is what a private transfer fee is not. It is not your HOA transfer fee. That is not a private transfer fee. Your anything to do with your HOA transfer fee, HOA fee for prepping the documents, those things are not a private transfer fee. Now, where can you find out if there is such a thing, a private transfer fee? Check out the tax report that you order with your NHD report as part of your NHD report. Okay, and Melrose, by the way, is not a private transfer fee either. That's a tax, or that's a bond. So you can find that in the preliminary title report in the section. You can also find it in the tax report of the tax report section of your NHD report. When you order an NHD report, you should be ordering the environmental and tax reports. Order both of those. It comes together in that NHD. And if there's a private transfer fee, if there's Melrose, school bond, those things should be listed. NHD, Natural Hazards Disclosure Report.
Debbie, good morning. Before you go, if it's a Melrose, is the HOA that prepares all the paperwork?
Belarus has nothing to do with the HOA.
Okay.
Belarus is a bond, it is a bond.
Okay. And so what happened if it's a Belarus in that property?
Well, that has nothing to do with what we're going through now.
Okay.
Yeah. So it does have to be disclosed.
375.
It has nothing to do with an HOA.
We paid her 375.
When?
50% sick.
George,
Oh, they did?
Yeah, but how come it says 0 here?
okay. Hannah, reach out to somebody in the group after class and they'll be able to go over that with you. Or Hannah, another thing, go to car.org, go to your legal Q&As, and there is one for private transfer fees. And that's a great Q&A. Y'all should all pull that and read that, because clients are going to ask about those things. Need to know about them. All right, if there's anything else that, okay, the 8 and 9 are kind of dangerous as far as I'm concerned, because this is where some people will say, I'm going to stick in something here asking the seller to pay for Section 1 termite or pay for buyer closing costs. Those kinds of things do not belong here. In fact, we rarely, if ever, see anything filled in on D8 or 9, 7D, 8 or 9. But most definitely, you do not put, well, financing terms go on 3E on page 1. Anything that's a financing term belongs in item 3E on page 1 of your contract, not stuck back in here in the contract.
Debbie,
Yes.
how about solar transfer, or like warranty for solar?
You know what? That's a good one. You could put that in here. Seller to pay for solar transfer fee. Or you could put in buyer. You can do either one. Something like along those lines.
Hey, Debbie.
Uh-huh.
I'm trying to find the legal Q&A. Usually they're pretty easy for me to find on CAR, and I can't find it. Would you be able to have someone post it to Workplace later for us or something?
Probably not, so hang on.
Okay.
Debbie, your mic went off.
Hang on a second. There we go. All legal Q&As. It's not going to show away. If I come across it again, I will have a class. I have to do some checking. I know it's in here because I've got a copy of it in my book, in my notebook. But this is how you're going to find these things in CAR. I know there is one though, so I'll find it and come back to class and ask me for it, and we'll get it to you.
Awesome. Thank you.
If y'all don't find it before me.
Okay.
All right.
Where do you put a request for the seller to pay for the section 1 clearance?
In the repair request.
But what if you want it settled
It
when you
shouldn't
make
be,
your offer?
it should not be done here. You want to attach a repair request with your offer, that's, you could do that, but according to CAR, it should not be in your contract.
Oh,
And here's why. Reason they took this out, because we used to have a wood destroying pest and organism disclosure, where it could be asked for, that the seller pay for this. And it's like, well, 9 times out of 10, that inspection hasn't been done yet. So you're asking the seller to commit to work that hasn't been done yet, and they have no idea of the cost.
right.
So that's why they took that out, because it was deemed unfair to request that the seller take on an unknown cost. You know, it could be a few $100s, it could be several $1,000s. Without having a report showing them upfront what those costs were. That's why they've gotten rid of it all throughout the contract. Took away that particular closure.
So now that's just decided during escrow, and it just cancels if the buyer wants the seller to pay for it and they won't?
Exactly.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
All right, so down to item 10. Item 10 has to do with your home warranty. Who's going to pay for a home warranty, or is the buyer going to waive it? Some kind of decision needs to be made. Some kind of decision needs to be made. So, in the general market, I'll ask for the seller to pay that, and I will go to the chart. Don't choose a figure out of thin air. Go to there is a brochure, and these brochures are even online. I got multiple offers like crazy on my listings, and boy, you know, on one listing, I got 15, 16 offers, and the fee here wasn't the same on any of them, wasn't even near the same on some of them. Some of them put not to exceed $1,000. Well, I knew good and well this little house was 1,641 square feet. I knew good and well that the home warranty was not going to be anywhere near $1,000. They obviously just chose a figure. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my brochure, my home warranty brochure, and I'm going to look to see what is the upgraded plan. If I'm the buyer's agent, what's the upgraded plan? Property has air conditioning. I definitely want to make sure the air conditioning is included, and generally it is included with the upgraded plan. It is not included generally with the basic plan. Check that out to make sure. All right, so let's say I find out it's 600. All right, and I'm going to check the box upgraded. All right, then even though the upgraded plan specifically states that air conditioning is included, I'm going to check that again. I've had this happen where they issued a plan, they didn't go in, and for some reason escrow glossed over, because escrow was ordering the home warranty. They missed the fact that it showed upgraded, and the air conditioning box was not checked. So they ordered a basic plan which had no air conditioning. Now, luckily, we caught that for the close of escrow and got it worked out. But Again, clear and concise. I know that when I'm asking for an upgraded plan, that it includes air conditioning. I know this, but I'm still going to check the air conditioning box. Now you also have a bunch of options. You'll have your price, and then you'll have, oh, are you going to include a refrigerator? Are you going to include a washer and dryer? Are you going to include a pool or spa, or both? Those are extra costs. Those are a la carte. So you're going to add those in to the cost of the run-of-the-mill upgraded plan. And you're going to check the appropriate boxes. All right. Now, give you an idea. Oh, and I happen to have I'm the buyer's agent, so I'm gonna give the brochures to the buyers, the various ones, let them choose. If they say, I have no preference whatsoever, this is where I will put in a home warranty company that I know and trust. The reason for that, when I'm the buyer's agent, writing up this contract, that I will do that, because when escrow closes and the buyers move in, and let's say dishwasher stops working, who's the first person they're going to call? They're probably going to call me because I was their agent. They may not think to call the home warranty company, and they're certainly not going to call the listing agent. They're going to call me, and I'm going to help guide them through the process. Natalie, I'm not going to go all the way back up on this because we're right down here on the end right now. So I'm not going to, I want to know that I can pick up the phone and I can call my home warranty rep, who I work with on a regular basis, and say, hey, Dawn, I've got an issue over on Smith Street, and it's kind of an emergency, or the tech came out and was giving us problems with this. Can you help us out here? All right, so this is what we've got here. I want to know that when escrow closes, if there's a problem, I've got a good rapport with that home warranty rep so that I can call them. All right, so let's see. Let's say, now this could easily be the buyer pays for it. Let's say there's not going to be one, right? Or the agent's going to pay for it. What are we going to do here? What we're going to do here is we're going to check this box. Buyer waives the purchase of a home warranty plan. Nothing in this paragraph precludes the buyers purchasing a home warranty plan during the term of this agreement. What this means right now, that plan is being waived. Now, agents, you're going to buy the home warranty as a gift for the buyer. That's great. You would still do this, and then you would let escrow know that you're going to pay for it, or let your home warranty rep, call your home warranty rep and let them know and order it and pay for it. All right, so still being waived. The buyer is waiving this because the blanks up here on item 10 are buyer and seller. Now, let's say this is March. Sometime during the escrow process, you know how it is. I mean, the only way I can equate this is when I was expecting my babies. And everybody came out of the woodwork to tell me their horror stories about being pregnant and having children. You know, I've never understood that. But it happens. Well, the same thing happens when you're buying a house, when somebody's buying a house. Experienced homeowners will come out of the woodwork. You know, you're sitting at the, got a family picnic. Oh, John, heard you guys are buying a house. Man, we went through a doozy of a situation, and they'll tell you all the horror stories. They won't tell you the good stuff, but they'll tell you the horror stories. And along the lines, the buyer's getting really nervous. And the buyer's thinking, man, I really wish I hadn't waived that home warranty. Hey, they're still in escrow. They've got time to change their mind. Now it will be at their expense. They're not going to go back at this point and ask the seller to purchase it. That ship sailed as soon as that offer and any counters were signed off. But this clause says nothing in this paragraph precludes the buyer purchasing a home warranty plan during the term of this agreement. So you get that call from the buyer, and the buyer says, hey, I was at a family picnic this weekend, and boy, my relatives were really telling me of all the things that could go wrong with a house. And is it too late for me to get a home warranty? No, it's not too late for you to get a home warranty. We're still in escrow. You can still do that. I'll just contact the right people. We'll get that set up. We'll get that ordered and you'll pay for it through escrow. No problem. Right? So this is where, this is how the waiver works. But one way or the other on item 7D10, something has to be checked. You can't leave it totally blank. Somebody's either paying for a home warranty here, or either buyer seller paying for a home warranty here, or the buyer is waiving it. So for whoever asked me that question about, well, what if as an agent I'm buying it, it would still be marked as the buyer is waiving it. And then you would, as the agent, would order it and pay for it so that they would have it at the close of escrow. But you've got to remember, your contract is between buyer and seller. There's no place in here to say agent to pay for. God for that. I don't want to open that up, a can of worms. Have a third option, buyer to pay for this, seller to pay for this, agent to pay for this. Guess which boxes are always going to be checked off? Agent. They want us to pay for everything. All right, so contract is between the buyer, those are terms between the buyer and seller. So either the buyer's going to pay for a home warranty, the seller's going to pay for the home warranty, or the buyer is waiving the purchase of a home warranty. And if that box is checked, an agent, you want to buy a home warranty for your client, step up, get it ordered, let escrow know. So that's how that works.
So Debbie, I have a question.
Uh-huh.
If the agent is paying for it, does it have to be documented through an amendment or addendum or anything?
No, your addendum amendments are going to be, if it's an amendment, it would be through escrow. It will not be anything that you're going to generate.
Okay.
Because remember, all your documents in this transaction are terms between buyer and seller.
Got it. Thank you very much.
No problem. Now, we're going to take a second to go back up very briefly. So if you need to take notes, take them now. And I think we had a couple of questions, so let me take a look in here. 7 and 8, do you recommend putting NA? You certainly can. Nothing wrong with that. What's the latest you can get a home warranty then? Well, you can get it during the transaction, or I think within 30 days after. Now, I've lived our last house, bought it brand new. We bought this one brand new. And for the first few years, while things were covered under the builder's warranty, we didn't have a home warranty. And then we went back and we bought a home warranty of our own after that. So we kept a home warranty on our house for years.
So there's no limit? You can just buy it whenever?
Well, generally you're looking at within the escrow period or 30 days after you can go in and add one. Now, you talk to your home warranty reps about this. This is their area expertise. All I can tell you is we didn't have one on our house for a few years, and then we went in and ordered one. And I kept one for years on our house. So check in with your home warranty rep. Let's see. See, your home warranty rep is another one of those people that needs to be on your team. You're going to have your lender of choice, your title rep of choice, your escrow officer of choice, your home warranty rep, your NHD rep, inspectors, contractors, handymen, handy person. That way, handy person. You're going to have these people, and you know that, hey, these are folks I rely on. I may not have the answer, but I can go to X and they will. Okay, so you need to start building that group of people. For home warranties, it's standard for the seller or buyer to pay. Well, it's standard for one or the other to pay, and it depends on the area. In my area, it's pretty standard for the seller to pay for that. But in this market, nothing is normal. And in this market, if you're looking for a way to make your offer look better, hey, you might, instead of having the seller pay, the buyer may pay, or the buyer says, well, I don't want to pay for that. This could be a closing gift that you're giving the buyer. You're paying for the home warranty. All right. Do you recommend buying a home warranty for your buyer, even if the buyer waives it to cover your ass as the buyer's agent? Maybe, maybe not. I don't pay for anything. This contract is between buyer and seller. I educate, then they make the decision. And then down the road, if that turns out to not be a good decision, it was still their decision. And I know that I gave them all the information. Now that's my personal choice. Right?
Debbie?
You may decide that, hey, if buyer and seller aren't going to pay for it, I'm going to pay for it. That's your choice to make. All right, this is where we are here. So make sure something is filled out here. Don't leave it blank. It's either going to be buyer's going to pay for it, or it's going to be seller's going to pay for it, or buyer's going to waive it.
Yeah.
Debbie, I have a quick question.
Yeah.
I have a client that has it's purchasing a house but has solar on it. Would that go here, where they have to transfer the costs or anything like that?
That can go here on 8 or 9.
Can we request that the seller pays off the solar?
You could do that.
Okay.
Yeah, so you could.
Okay, because that's like $20,000 in a fee, I think. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you could put that into 7, C, 8, or 9.
Thank you.
All right. Items included and excluded from the sale. Boy, I'm going to tell you something. I have seen so many issues come up because agents not understand how this works. So I want you to take notes. I want you to listen carefully. When you take a listing, you should always, and there's a place in the contract for this, be asking the sellers what personal items are included, what personal items are excluded. In general, in my area, again, washers, dryers, and refrigerators are excluded. Now, I'm not talking about the big built-ins, you know, like your Sub-Zero refrigerators. Those are fixed. Those are considered to be a fixture. So are, you know, built-in range tops and things like that. Built-in dishwashers. Those are fixtures. But in my area, washers, dryers, and, you know, your normal refrigerator that you go to Best Buy or wherever and buy, you know, that place. Those are, that's personal property. And it is at the seller's discretion as to whether or not they want to include that sale of their property or have an option for the buyer to purchase those. Other things that come up when I see that there is a great swing set in the backyard. Man, this thing has all the bells and whistles. It's not just a swing set, it's a fort. You know, it's amazing. Is that going to be included or is that going to be excluded? All right, the trampoline, backyard, included or excluded? Because those really are personal items. Let's get this dialed in up front. Are the curtains going to be included or excluded? Well, they have this gorgeous chandelier or this really cool ceiling fan. Is this going to be included or excluded? Now, I know that ceiling fans and light fixtures are technically, they are fixtures and they should be included, but I will ask anyway. I had a client who had a beautiful chandelier, and it had been passed down in their family. So when we got to this question, said, yes, this dining room chandelier is excluded. And I said, all right, that's great. Now, what I'm going to strongly recommend is that before we put the house on the market, you remove that. Out of sight, out of mind, it won't be an issue. Go ahead and pack it. And either put the plate up there so that there's nothing there, but there is a finished plate on the ceiling, or replace it with another fixture. So they decided to go, they said, well, it'd be awkward in here because there's no other light available, so we will replace it. And they did. They went down to Home Depot and found something and replaced it before we put the house on the market. A danger of having these things in place and just telling a buyer that it's excluded from the sale is that I have seen battles waged over light fixtures or an above ground spa in the backyard. Above ground spa is not a fixture. It's personal property. Seller can take that with them. But things along those lines, an above ground pool. Make sure that it is properly noted when you take a listing if these items are going to be included or excluded. It needs to be in the listing contract. Then you need to make sure you put those items in the private remarks in the MLS. And now for the final, you are the buyer's agent and you are writing an offer. You need to carefully read the full MLS printout. Not just the little short version, the full thing. And oh, it says chandelier in dining room is excluded. It's not good enough that it shows up there. It needs to be in the contract. All right, so we're going to make sure that that would be put into the contract. Or, hang on, up here it says items included. Okay, I want to make sure the stove is included. Buyers, it says in the MLS that the refrigerator and the washer and dryer are included. So I'm going to check these boxes to make sure that they are definitely included. Okay, we had a question.
If they agreed to buy furniture outside of escrow, right? What should I put here? Like nothing included, right? And they do whatever.
Exactly. You're not going to put anything. That would be between them outside of escrow.
Hey, Debbie.
Yes.
I had a transaction. It was actually my first buyer representation, and it had a nice Samsung washer and dryer in it. We included on the contract that it was included. They signed off on it. By the end of the transactions, the sellers were pissed, and they ended up taking the washer and dryer. And I called the agent and said, hey, you know, the washer and dryer were supposed to be included. And she said, okay, what do you want me to do? I said, well, they need to put it back. So she ended up going out and buying a hunk of junk washer and dryer and putting it in there and said, deal with it. The contract says a washer and dryer. It's not specific.
Okay, so in this case, the buyer has the right to take the seller to
Small claims.
That's a small claims issue.
Okay.
That's between buyer and seller.
So would you wouldn't go as far as putting the type into the contract though, right?
You certainly could.
Okay.
Certainly
if it was
could.
like a sub-zero fridge or something of
Yeah.
high.
If you want to, you certainly can.
Okay.
I'd rather have more information than not enough information.
May I say something?
Yeah.
Regarding with that, because when I started, I had a very hard start and I just listening and hearing the worst and the worst. So to avoid something like that, I really put type of fridge and dryer or microwave, whatever buyer want, and we see them inside. And I plus take a picture of it on my phone in case if some issue happened that, you know, after that,
that's a good idea.
I can have any chance to never had any issues. Any kind of appliances, washer, dryer, dishwasher, stove, anything what is really nice and valuable, even if they're not, and buyer is okay and wanted, I usually noted that. And additional one, I take picture, and also I take picture some codes inside and models. Pictures I don't forward to anybody, I just keep them for myself.
That's great. I think that's a good idea. Somebody put in here, can you put into the contract as seen on the date property was originally seen? Yeah, try to prove that. Somebody's going to come back and say, well, no, we replaced it the day before, or what have you. I mean, people say all kinds of stuff. I'd rather be really specific.
So Debbie, what if it's a if you're buying a property and it says as is, and you've looked at the property and you're buying it, of course, for your client or your client's buying it, and you put as is, but let's just say it does have a nice refrigerator in it. Would you wait for do you put in the counter offer if initially you sign it and it says as is, and then let's say, I don't know, 2 weeks later, I mean, not 2 weeks later, let's just say a week later, the seller's like, oh, I need to get my refrigerator out of there. Is that, I mean, how do you?
Okay, so first of all, the contract is, the homes are always sold as is. That's in your contract. We will get to that, but that homes are sold as is, subject to inspection. So going back and writing as is redundant, because it's already in the contract that the home is being sold as is, subject to inspections. So best you can do is note it. Note it, take pictures, be specific.
Debbie, how you verbiage is as see on date when they visit the property or when they say write contract.
I didn't hear the first part of that question.
You verbiage something very nicely. Put, for example, stove and refrigerator when see on. I'm buying your house and I want that refrigerator and stove and washer and dryer inside. And how should I verbiage this? As see on day when I visit your house first time,
No,
second time,
that was no. I mean, if you're gonna be specific with a model and take pictures.
Okay.
All right, now it states here that all existing fixtures and fittings that are attached to the property are included. Now, I'm going to explain this to the sellers when I take their listing. This is why I'm doing a walkthrough with them. I'm going through and saying, okay, how about this? How about this? Oh, you've got a reverse osmosis system in the kitchen. That's great. Do you own it or is it leased? Is it going to, if you own it, are you going to include it? Because if it's leased, we need to exclude it. Unless you want to be paying for a reverse osmosis system for the client or the buyer. Oh, you've got a water softener. Great. Do you own it or is it leased? Because if it's leased, we need to exclude it. Be specific about these things. Okay, so existing electrical, mechanical, lighting, plumbing, and heating fixtures, ceiling fans, fireplace inserts, gas logs and grates, solar power systems, built-in appliances, window and door screens, awnings, shutters, window coverings, attached floor coverings, television antennas, satellite dishes, air coolers or air conditioners, pool spa equipment, garage door openers and remote controls, mailbox, in-ground landscaping, trees and shrubs, water features and fountains, water softeners, water purifiers, security systems and alarms, and the following if checked. Because all of those things should remain unless otherwise down further they are excluded. This is important stuff. So here's the thing. You're representing the buyer. Read the MLS listing information thoroughly. And then make sure that the information makes it into the contract. We've had this happen. What haven't we had happen? We've had this happen where listing agent puts into the MLS, we're going to get down here to something being excluded. They put into the MLS that the chandelier in the dining room is excluded from the sale. That's in the MLS. But then the buyer agent doesn't write that in on the contract. They don't write in that the chandelier I'm gonna misspell it. Let's put ceiling fan and in living room. Right. All right, for whatever reason, the ceiling fan in the living room was being excluded. It shows clearly in the private remarks of the MLS that this, thank you. Well, I was spelling it right. I did have that E in there. Great. Okay, I was doubting myself. So Let's go back to the chandelier. I like that one better. Works with my story better. Okay. Perfect. The agent did not do this. It's in the MLS that this chandelier is going to be excluded. Thanks, Chuck. Is going to be excluded. All right. Right there in the MLS, but the buyer's agent did not write it in as being excluded. And the listing agent didn't catch it when they reviewed the contract with sellers. Now, buyer does their final walkthrough and the chandelier is not there. Mrs. Buyer loved that chandelier. She was so excited. First of all, she knew the value of it and knew that, wow, we're getting a deal here by having them leave this. Plus, it's just gorgeous. I'm excited. I don't have to go out and buy one of my own. They walk in on the final walkthrough and it's gone. And so, of course, buyer's agent's going to call the listing agent and say, we got a problem. Chandelier in the dining room is gone. Well, that was excluded. Listing agent says, that's excluded. No, it's not excluded. Yes, it's right there in the MLS that it's excluded. Ah, but I did not write it into the contract that it was excluded. And you guys didn't counter us back, so it's included. Now that listing agent has a big problem on their hands because this isn't something that they can just go back down to Home Depot and place for the seller. This has been passed down through the family. What you can hope, though, is say, all right, look, this is a family heirloom. What if we credit buyer toward this? Now, the seller says, agent, we didn't make a mistake, you did. Now, they signed off on the contract, but they're going to put it back on you as the listing agent that you didn't catch this. You didn't protect them. So now you as the agent are going to be buying a chandelier. And probably not a cheapo either. Got to make this buyer happy. This buyer is very upset. And you're probably going to spend a good portion of that hard-earned commission buying the stinking chandelier that you're never going to get to enjoy. So
what the listing agent should do? Counter them back to exclude this, right?
Yes. Let's say that it's in the MLS that it's excluded, but when they get the contract, there's nothing in here excluding it. That's when the listing agent should counter. Chandelier and dining room is excluded from the sale. Great question. Yes. This is why you guys have got to be thorough. Slow down. Read carefully.
Debbie, it's Sarah,
Yeah.
can I ask you a question?
Yes, please.
Okay, let's say as a buyer agent, you clear, like you said, and you tell your buyers, and they're like, I want that chandelier. Then let's say, so what the buyer would want to do is put it in included, hoping that they'll accept, right?
Right.
That's what you would do.
Yeah. I'd say, well, we can leave it out and see if they catch it But I will pretty much guarantee what will happen, even if they don't catch it, we're probably going to have an issue with this. Because at some point they're going to take it down and then they're going to realize what's gone on and we're going to have an issue. So I just want to prepare you. Maybe we won't, but I want to prepare you in case we do.
Hey, Debbie, given that scenario, if you're paying for the chandelier for the buyer, would you need to get something in writing that they're satisfied with that, so they don't come back later with maybe something else?
This is why I would give them a credit if at all possible. I would give them a credit through escrow if at all possible. Or take them with you to, because you're right, they're already ticked off. So it's going to be very hard to make them happy.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Debbie, I put here all owners' furniture available for sale or something like that?
Well, no. If there's furniture available for sale, leave it out of the contract and let the two parties deal with that outside of escrow between themselves. Because if you put furnishings into this, you're going to have to put in something eventually. If there's a loan, if the buyer's getting a loan, the lender's going to want to see that for purposes of the sale, none of this has any monetary value. So it would be furniture included with no monetary value. You're going to put it in there. Otherwise, if it's that things can be negotiable, let them discuss it outside of escrow. Seller can provide a list with the costs or with the amounts that they want. Buyer can go directly through the seller for the purchase of those items and pay the seller directly. Stay out of it. Okay. In the last few minutes, we have leased or liened items. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Leased or liened items. Okay. Water softeners. Reverse osmosis systems. Those are examples of some leased or liened items. A liened item means still paying on that item. Okay, so seller shall, within the time specified in 14A, disclose to the buyer if any item or system specified in 8B or otherwise included in the sale is leased or not owned by the seller or specifically subject to a lien or other encumbrance, and deliver to the buyer all written materials such as the lease, the warranty, etc., concerning any such item. Buyer's ability to assume any such lease or willingness to accept the property subject to any such lien or encumbrance is a contingency in favor of the buyer and seller as specified in 14B and C, which we will be getting to those clauses, so I'm not going to go into those in detail right now. Seller represents that all items included in the purchase price, unless otherwise specified, are owned by the seller and shall be transferred free and clear of liens and encumbrances, except the items and systems identified pursuant to 8B5. 8B5 is anything that's leased or there's a loan on it, and are transferred without seller warranty, regardless of the value. Now, what you do not want to do is not ask questions and find out that, oh, that soft water system wasn't owned. That's going back to Culligan. The buyer says there's nothing here in the contract regarding that being excluded, and so I want it. And the seller won't do anything about it. Agent didn't put it in, so in order to avoid a DRE complaint or a board complaint or small claims court yourself, buy them a soft water system. These are expensive lessons, and I don't want you guys to have to go through this. The last thing.
Hi, Debbie.
Hang on 1 second because we're running out of time, so hang on to your question. Brackets attached to the walls, floors, or ceilings for such components, furniture, or items shall remain with the property, or if checked, be removed, and holes or other damage shall be repaired, but not painted. This applies most commonly with TV brackets. All right. If the TV bracket is being excluded, make sure that that is noted. I personally had this happen. It wasn't a big deal. This was my own house. I'm much more careful with my clients' stuff than my own. Well, actually, I'm very careful with mine, but being both the seller and the agent, there are warnings that go with that too. And I just missed the fact that I excluded the TV bracket in my listing contract. I excluded it in the MLS. And when the buyers wrote their offer, they didn't check the box saying that the bracket would be excluded. Nothing was written in. So we got close to the closing of escrow, and that's when I realized, oh, that's my fault. And so we left it. I mean, it's like, you know, $100 or less. It was no big deal, but that was my fault. And so I left it. Now, let's say in this situation, we said it was going to be excluded. It was written in to the contract that it was excluded. This box was checked. So we would have taken it off the wall and we would have patched the holes, fixed any damage, but it is not required that it be painted. And agents, that is what you have to make sure that the buyer understands, is that the seller will take these things down, they will patch, but they are not going to repaint. So when they come into the house and they see a bunch of patch jobs, they just need to understand that that is per the contract how it is. First of all, unless that house was recently painted, there is a good chance that any paint that's left over that they put on there isn't going to match well anyway. Okay, so we had a question.
Yeah, my question is that most solar panels are leaned or if not outright purchased. Wouldn't they be in this section?
For what was it now?
Solar panels.
Solar panels, yes,
yeah.
the solar system.
Yeah.
You can put that in where it says and.
Okay.
You have to identify the brackets if you're checking the box that those items will be removed and holes repaired. No, you do not. But here's what I would do. You don't have to. But on item C, where it says items excluded from sale, and you have this section here, the bracket in family room. And family room TV brackets. This TV brackets in family room and primary. By the way, stop calling it a master bedroom. It is primary. Boards, MLSs are starting to make that change. Well, I got something yesterday on that it will no longer be, they will no longer be referring to those rooms as master bedroom, master bath. It will be primary bedroom, primary bath. Okay, so this will give you an example here. TV brackets in family room and primary bedroom, and then check the box. That's showing these are excluded and that the holes and other damage will be repaired but not painted. Now, next week, we will start on item 9A. So mark your marketplace so that you've got that. And who's obligated to pay for the whole repair? Generally the seller. They have to patch. Because if it's the buyer has an option as to whether, they don't have to do that before close of escrow. All right.
I have one question, Debbie.
Yeah.
So what happens if we go ahead and submit this to the buyer, and then we realize later on, oh my gosh, I forgot to put this in there? Can we do an addendum, or if we discover something later on that we didn't put in the contract and it is signed, is there a time in which we can put it in without having to?
Well, here's the risk you run. Once that offer is signed off and agreed to, no obligation for one side or the other to accept anything different. So this is your one shot, so just don't forget. That's the best advice there, because if you forget, you may not get a chance. Say, oh, we forgot we wanted to exclude those brackets. Well, sorry, you can go to the buyer, and I did in my case. I went to the buyer's agent. Hey, I forgot to exclude this. It's excluded in the MLS, but I just forgot when I got your offer. Does the buyer want the bracket? Well, yes, of course, the buyer wanted the bracket. They didn't want to have to go buy one and install it either. So I said, not a problem, and just left it as it was. And when we moved, we bought a new bracket. All right, guys, I gotta run. Thank you so much for being with me today. We will start on 9A next week. So I will see you then. Have a great rest of your week.
Thank you, Debbie.
Thank you, Debbie. Thanks, Debbie.
Thank you, Debbie. Thank you, Debbie. Thank you.
Y'all are welcome.
Thank you, Debbie.
Thank you, guys.